It's got a lot of power. Okay, so this, couple of things I have to get out of the way right away. This is the biggest Lexus SUV. This is the only version of the Land Cruiser we get in this country. It is the LX700h, and you have probably also noticed, besides the fact you clicked on those things, that is not Paul. That is my awesome wife, Kate, and she is here because she has Land Cruiser history and she loves body-on-frame trucks, and we have the LX700h to talk about. Why the 700h? Well, because the 600 isn't a hybrid. So instead of just doing 600h, which I think makes more sense, they did 700 because it has even more power. This has 457 horsepower, 583 pound-feet of torque, which is enormous, a staggering amount of power. But this is also enormous car at 6,200 pounds, so it weighs more than a loaded out Suburban. I'm going to come back to that, but here's where we are in this behemoth.
Okay, I don't know what you just said, but it sounds big.
Great cars, great roads, and all the reasons we love to drive.
Road trips, comparisons, test drives, and podcasts. This is Everyday Driver.
This is the same engine. If you get it in the LX600, it is the same engine as the GX, which is one down from this. But this being the LX has the even bigger more. It has all the hybrid stuff, and that actually means that you have less cargo space in the back because the battery's back there, the wheel's back there, the spare tire, because of course this has all the classic Land Cruiser off-road capability with crawl control and all the things. But my big question about this as an off-roader, I know it has the history, stop typing, but my big question is, this is $116,000.
Almost 117, yeah.
Are you going to take this genuinely rock crawling off-roading? And my suspicion is no.
Right, and the version we're in is a 5-seater.
True.
Which the GX was a 5-seater as well, correct?
Yes, the GX,
so
yeah.
This is just basically more space in the back, but without that third row.
True. I mean, yes. This is the Overtrail version, and they've never offered an Overtrail version in most of these Lexus SUVs, which means even more setup for off-road. The benefits here, and even to the GX, is it's the 18-inch wheels with the 33-inch tires, which makes the ride better, even though a little softer, which is actually better for something this massive. But the reality is, if you're going to off-road, I think the GX is the better choice because it's A, cheaper, and B, smaller, significantly smaller. This is only a 5-seat version. You can get it as 7 seats, but unfortunately, Land Cruiser history, you know about this.
Yeah.
The rear seats, the third row, is typically difficult to use. That isn't actually any less true here. It's still a really cramped back seat, especially in this hybrid version where they lost space because of the battery. So it's not a comfortable third row, but if you're getting something this big, why didn't you get a third row?
Right, you should at least be able to fit 1.5 more people in it.
At least. But here's the thing, $116,000, the last Suburban we drove, loaded, completely loaded, was just under 95.
And that was a 7-seater?
That was a 7-seater with a lot more space than this. It weighed less, that had almost the same amount of power. And if you're not like rock crawling, then the Suburban can go anywhere you want it to go. And I don't think you're going to do anything like rock crawling in this anyway.
No, this does have a, I don't know, it feels, having owned, you know, a GMC Yukon.
Yes.
And having had a Land Cruiser in the family for a while, the Land Cruiser has always felt a little narrower and taller to me than the GM, the Yukon,
the Suburban. I agree with that, yep.
Products. I don't know, you said taking a Suburban off-roading, and that just sounds silly to me.
Well, it does sound
because
silly.
I would have never taken the Yukon off-roading.
Well, I mean, we did some, but we didn't do anything more than just
crawling.
like, no.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm talking about. We're talking about fire roads and get to the trailhead, which is not Moab off-roading.
Right.
Which this theoretically has the running gear for, but you would never, ever do that.
Right. But still, I don't know. Something about it, maybe it's the history, does kind of lend itself to more of that type of driving, I guess. I don't know. To me, the Suburban is the more the family car. And the
True.
Land Cruiser is a little bit more the adventure car.
Yes, the Land Cruiser definitely has sold itself on that, but the problem with the last gen, which was the 200, this is essentially the Land Cruiser 300 in the US. The one your dad had was a 100, just to give you frame of reference, okay? So the reality is the Land Cruiser has gotten nicer and nicer, bigger and bigger, more and more expensive, and our issue with the last Land Cruiser in the US, the 200, was it was too luxurious to actually be something you would take anywhere for real. And I think this does carry that on, let alone the fact it's a Lexus. It does carry that on. And I don't think you're really going to use it. Anything majorly off-road, this can wade to almost just over 2 feet worth of water. Are you going to do that in your $117,000 SUV? I don't think so. This is not something you're going to bang around in. That's where the GX or even the Land Cruiser below it are better. But I think that I'm frustrated by the fact that this has all this running gear and history. I don't think that is the buyer.
Okay, so are you telling me, let's just say that this truck was under 100?
Sure.
Like between 90 and 100?
Sure.
Then would you?
I still don't think this is the use case.
You still wouldn't do it?
Because it's 6,200 pounds and a longer wheelbase and a larger structure than something like the GX, which weighs about 1,000 pounds less than this, which is significant when you're talking about off-roading. So there's a lot of differences here, and I think this becomes just a luxury item, which is fine. I have no issue with that. But I don't think it needs to carry forward the Land Cruiser pedigree, because you're not going to use it that way. It needs to be a luxurious thing, but it isn't big enough to really run 7 people around.
Well, okay, so, you know, when the Land Cruiser that we have experience with,
Yes.
We certainly were not off-roading in it, but it was a great haul stuff. It was a nice, it was good for those things. It had its days where it was nice looking, got a little beat on.
Yeah.
It definitely was capable of being a truck. It wasn't so luxurious and so precious that it couldn't also function as a truck.
True.
What if this was just a little less special, maybe? A little less luxurious? Does it have anywhere that you think it fits into, that it fits a need, I guess?
Well, I think the person buying it is the person that is frankly also buying things like the Suburban or something like a Range Rover product. And it's probably the best comparison to a Range Rover product, which is going to cost more, but it tries to do that luxurious and off-road thing. And some of the most expensive Range Rovers fall into the same trap, where I don't think you're going to use the off-road capability, but you want to claim you've got it, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I really think that the use case for this is, I want something with a lot of tow capacity. This tows 8,000 pounds, which means the family boat, let's go to the lake, let's go to the trailhead, let's pull the ATVs. But the reality is that kind of off-roading you can do in a Suburban for cheaper with more space. And that's my big issue.
But what if you are a diehard Land Cruiser fan, right?
This is your choice.
When was the last time the Land Cruiser was made, right?
Yep, this is the only way to get it in the US right now.
My dad used to have people offering him way more than the value of the Land Cruiser, because nobody made them anymore, and it was still around and it was still running, and it was like a collectible almost.
You've tapped into the history. That's exactly what the case is, and that's exactly how people feel about the Land Cruiser. But I think that the second, third buyer might use it more as an off-roader, but I feel like the scale of this has gotten way too big.
Yeah.
Too focused on actually being luxurious, that the off-road cred is there, but I also think it doesn't matter anymore. And then I start to think of it as a luxury item where I want space and family, and I can do that better for less in the Suburban.
Right.
That is the big place I struggle.
Well, and one thing we talked about, I mean, you can get this with the massage seats and everything. This current one that we're in doesn't even have that we can find, which is a whole nother thing, because this whole system is...
Go on.
Good luck finding the fan controls. Everything is hidden. Nothing is obvious, or where it should be, to me at least. So I find this to be a little tricky to find kind of the normal things you need. But for $117,000, my back should be getting rubbed right now. Now I've got cooled seats. I can turn those on, or heated seats. But I've got no, little extra thing like a Genesis or a Mercedes would have. You don't even get the cool lights in here like you get in the Mercedes.
Sure, yeah.
You don't get that ambient thing. You can't do the smells and the forest sounds and
fair point. All right.
All those extra little things. So where's the luxury?
Well, now you're talking about something like the Mercedes GLS, which is their upper level 7-seater competitor to the Suburban. We are talking similar prices to that now. We're almost talking similar horsepower. It has usable, they're still tight, but usable third row. Now, it doesn't have the off-road cred, but how you're using it, I don't know that matters. You were talking about these screens in here. Now, there's two different screens. The upper screen has been used in other Toyota products. It has this lower screen, which is, we haven't seen this since Infiniti, and we weren't a big fan of it there, where you have a lower screen that does some stuff and an upper screen that does your Apple CarPlay. The lower screen, you can figure it out. You can spend your time here and you'll figure it out. But the reality is that it isn't as obvious as it should be. And some of the stuff that you want for HVAC is on the screen. Some of it is actually in buttons, and it isn't something you learn at a glance. You have to stop and take a minute and figure it out and find your screen and go, oh, that's how it works. This feels clunky.
Yeah.
In a brand new 2025 that's very expensive, and the system that is all in one in the GX and other things where everything is in one is actually working better than this system is. Well, and you've struggled with it every time you've driven it.
This feels like aftermarket to me. This feels like this was put in, the Apple CarPlay was put in after the fact.
Sure, yeah.
Not something you should see in a brand new car. It shouldn't feel aftermarket. It shouldn't feel that way. It should feel integrated. It should feel like one thing, seamless, and it's not.
Tons of buttons on the steering wheel, which I do appreciate. It's got all the latest Toyota Safety Sense stuff. All of that works. Of course, there are drive modes. There's full-time all-wheel drive. There's low range. There's high range. There's 3 differentials. There's a front and rear locker plus the center differential. So look, there's a lot of off-road running gear going on here, and it is set up to carry forward the Land Cruiser history of off-roading. I don't think that's the segment we're in anymore. It's the same place we were talking about when we drove the Land Cruiser 200, and many Land Cruiser fans got mad at us because how dare we not. But the thing is, this is a luxury item now, especially under Lexus, and I do think that the GX is the better off-roader, but my lord, the power here is astonishing.
Is it?
And I just
I'll take your word for
it. There is no reason something this big should move as fast and as effortlessly as it does, but I want you to drive it and talk about that further.
Okay. Well, I have a question. That third row, if it's in here, I'm guessing because of the batteries and everything, your feet are like, your knees are in your chest when you're in that third row because your feet are up higher?
Yes. You have a decent amount of headroom, shoulder room, that's okay because this is large in scale, but because you're essentially sitting on what is left of the battery and the spare tire to get the clearance of the rear up, your feet are kind of high. It's not designed for adults, but I keep coming back to, I'm sorry to beat on it, I keep coming back to the Suburban is a real 7-seater with real towing capability. 8,000 pounds in here is impressive, but a Suburban can do stuff like that, and everybody feels more opulent, I think, than you do in this.
Right.
All right, I'm ready for you to drive.
All right. All right, so just a little fun fact to see the difference between Todd's ride. So this is where Todd sits.
Yeah, I'm gonna go down, you're gonna go up. It's a fun little gag we're doing here.
So this seat does have a lot of travel, which I appreciate. I like to sit really, really high. And fortunately, we have found in our Cayennes that Porsche does a great job of having a lot of seat travel. There have been several cars we've had. The Acadia is a good example that just didn't have quite the seat travel. This one has great seat travel. So I do love the body on frame.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
You're a big fan of that.
I love that feel. So it's that big truck feel. Anytime I get a chance to drive Paul's big Expo, I'm quite happy. Okay, this is the other thing I can't stand. Our son had to teach me how to use this. Okay, so I want to go down and over towards me.
There you go, yeah.
Is drive.
Yep.
No, it shouldn't be this hard.
Well, it's a transmission interaction that they introduced on the Prius and is through a lot of the Toyota.
Yeah, well,
vehicles, so.
I don't.
I know. You haven't driven as much of them.
Drive.
I get it. Yeah, I know.
What was wrong with how it used to work? What's wrong with the big stick here?
I
don't know.
That is classic body on frame there. That is well done.
Okay,
you used to drive a Gia. Got it.
So you were saying this has a lot of.
Yeah, punch it.
Okay. There. Oh. Yeah, she's dragging a little. I mean, weighs a lot.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
I mean, you were going uphill onto an on-ramp. I think for 6,200 pounds, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it didn't have that instant, I guess it's that first to second wasn't quite the punch I'm used to in the Cayenne. I love the ride height. I'm just such a...
You are a fan.
I could drive 18-wheelers, I think. I
True.
love
Yeah,
this.
you are a big fan of 75. Yep.
I am.
I think our head height is about the same right now.
It
I went down, you went up.
I went up.
That's where we are, yeah.
Yeah, super happy up here. Okay, so I let my foot just kind of like sit where it's comfortable on the gas pedal, and I'm barely doing 60.
Okay.
So I've got to keep some weight into that gas pedal to get it at a speed that's,
comfortable for you. Sure. I mean, obviously, we've got all the cruise controls, adaptive cruise controls. Those exist in here if you want to use them. Every single manufacturer does it differently, and that's not necessarily a slight, but you have to learn every manufacturer's version, and this has its own, and obviously it's related to Toyota products. But
it does, but I have had constant access to Lexus.
True.
My whole life.
True.
And I still don't know where everything is, so that's okay. I don't know where everything is on my car. So.
One of the things I find fascinating about this being the hybrid, and I really want to land on this real quick, there's the LX600 below this, okay, which still has over 400 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque because it has the same motor as the GX. This is the hybrid. Now, you hear hybrid, you think miles per gallon. You think,
right.
Oh, we're going to do really well.
Yeah. Or at least better.
Yes, this gets better. You want to know how much better? One mpg better than the LX600. This gets an average combined of 20, which means the 16 gets 19. So it's not like we ended up with amazing gas mileage here. Now, the big discussion here that is happening through almost all automakers for European regulations is this has better CO2 emissions, which is what a lot of the targets are right now for Europe. So it's less about hitting miles per gallon targets than it is about hitting CO2 targets. Sure. And that is something that they've done well here. But I think it's hysterical. Two things. You hear hybrid, you think miles per gallon. 20 miles per gallon is not that good, and I'll go you one better. That Suburban I keep bringing up, it'll do almost 20. Big old Suburban.
Oh, and it's not hybrid.
No, it's a big old V8 from GM. Okay, so now it has cylinder shutoff, but my point is, this does not do the normal hybrid things you think it does. My big struggle with big vehicles, and I know you like them more than I do, but my big struggle with big vehicles is I want usability in people and gear. I don't need it to go everywhere in the world. I'll buy an actual off-roader that frankly is smaller for off-roading, okay? We've taken our older Cayenne, we turn it into more of an off-roader. So I mean, something that is 5 seats and less scale than this is better as an actual dedicated, serious off-roader.
Right.
So I don't want to do that in this. If we're going to get this big, I want lots of space. I want lots of luxury. Luxury also equates to space in there. This is why we're talking Mercedes GLS. It's why I'm talking Suburban so much, because for similar price or less, you can get more utility as far as space and luxury, similar tow capability, and I think it is better packaged. This feels old school and doesn't need to, and there's a lot of cost here.
Right. Well, and I know that this is a body-on-frame thing, but I'm feeling it right now. The body roll in this is just enormous.
Yes, I mean, there is adaptive suspension. I'll go to
I'm like
Sport Plus for you.
Holding myself in the car right now, and we're not even on that tight of a road here.
We're not, yes.
But I'm definitely feeling it more. Whereas, I'm thinking, okay, this is a 5-seater. I drive a 5-seater every day, and my 5-seater is far more nimble, tighter than this.
Yes,
and it's 5 very usable seats.
Yep.
It's not a 5-seater like this is a 7-seater.
True. I mean, this has an enormous back hatch for sheer cargo, but I think that you're going to want even more space than you get here, and there's a lot of expense. I can't undersell the running gear. Double wishbone front suspension, multi-link rear, again, 2 locking diffs, front and rear, plus the center locker. It has Wade capability. It has all the off-road stuff you want. Yes, this is the modern Land Cruiser carried forward and sold to the U.S. market, but I don't think it succeeds in what it suggests itself to be, which is big old luxurious, bring the whole family. I don't think it does that very well.
Yeah, I think they should have stuck to making it just what the Land Cruiser people really want. Well, but like you're saying though, you want that off-roading capability. I'm with you though. This feels too long I would be very, very scared. I would be very nervous about tipping or leaving the back half on a rock somewhere. Because if you've ever been rock crawling, you want to be in something really small.
Yes, with great angles approaching and
big
departure.
tires.
Yep, for sure. Look, this got 33s on it. It's got big tires, but it is an enormous truck in and of itself.
Oh.
If you're looking for this LX or the old Land Cruiser or any Lexus product, any kind of off-roader, go to autotempest.com/everyday. That's how they know that we sent you. You can search all of the car search engines at once in one place with one search parameter. Autotempest.com, all the cars, one search. I'm glad to have you join me on this. This is pretty fun. I didn't expect to ever be reviewing cars with my wife, but it's kind of a fun little perk of the job today because Paul wasn't able to be here, and you like these big trucks.
I do. I'm a big truck girl. Okay. I've always been in big trucks.
Is there a different truck than this you would buy?
I do like that big Mercedes. Yeah, y'all had to kind of like pry the key out of my hands.
You did like that one a lot, and that
Um,
wasn't body on frame, but it did have this big scale.
Wrangler. Give me back my Wrangler.
You want the old feel. Yeah, okay.
You did I love the Ruba Cayenne. It's awesome. I still miss having a Jeep Wrangler and would buy one of those. Not a new one, but
But now you're classic off-roader, and at that point, that's a long way from what this is doing.
Yeah, but I mean, I did never use the Wrangler for off-roading.
True.
I drove it around Los Angeles.
You just liked it. That's true.
I just loved that car.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would go back to those products now, even though it's not body on frame. I do like the Cayenne. I like that smaller, I guess maybe more agile.
You like the dynamics of it better.
German engineering. It's not, granted, I miss my cup holders, but it doesn't have a lot of those oversized American products, I guess.
That's fair, yeah. You don't drive everything we get.
No,
You drive a lot of them.
I do.
You get in everything we get. You don't drive it all. But
No.
I wanted you to drive this one just because of your body on frame history, and you like big trucks. And here we are.
I do.
Big truck, expensive truck. I still struggle with, as I've done in the last couple rounds of the Land Cruiser, and Paul as well, this feels like it's stuck between two worlds. And by the way, you paid a lot for it, which is kind of frightening.
Yeah. I don't feel like it does anything that it's supposed to do really, really well.
Okay.
It's not hyper luxurious for how much you're paying. It wouldn't do the off-roading as well, right? Because it's so much longer and
It has the
bigger.
capability, but I don't know you want to.
Yeah. I just don't. I think you're right. I think the smaller one, the GX, was a much more agile, nimble for that kind of thing. So I just feel like this was trying to hit two targets and it didn't hit either one.
Can you imagine this on Fins and Things in Moab?
No. I would have to stay back at the hotel and not be a part of that adventure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That tells the tale right there.
Yeah. I can't imagine doing it in the Ruba Cayenne, but yeah.
That's a different video.
Yeah.
We'll link it.
Yeah.